So, for those of you who haven't figured it out, I'm Daniel Romery, and I'm one of the current senators for engineering, and Hannah over here is one of the other ones. And we just wanted to, since there's so many of you running, give you guys a chance to kind of convey why you're running and why people should vote for you. This is being recorded so we can post it online so that other people can see it besides a few of us here. But thank you for coming. You can go to next. So just to give everybody kind of an idea, stimulating, I know it's small, but these are some things that we've done this year in Senate. I don't know, I didn't know who would be here if they knew what Senate was and all that. So it's just, an idea of some things that we do. And again, we're happy that you are running. And so I guess I'm going to switch this now. You can come back if you need it, but go ahead and go to the next one. So if anybody has a question, you can use the hashtag there, or write it down and give it to Hannah. Get going. So how this is going to work, we're going to give each candidate 45 seconds to make kind of an opening statement about who you are, why you're running, etc. And then we'll move into some questions, which I think I told some of you this, but we're just going to do it kind of like we do in Senate. So I'm going to ask a question. If you want to answer it, raise your name placard, and then I'll call on you and you can answer. I guess we got 8 people here, so it's a little better than 14 or how many ever. So, just keep things concise, but obviously say what you want to say. So with that, do you have a timer?
I got my phone.
Okay. So let's make sure we have here. Okay. So with that, Chris or Christopher?
Yeah, you can call me Chris.
Okay, Chris. All right, so I think we'll just start with you, kind of going alphabetical order. You've got 45 seconds just to tell us who you are and why you're running.
Okay, yeah, my name is Chris Dawn. I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm a sophomore. And I heard about PSG, this position, through one of my friends that's on one of the boards for PSG. And I think it'd be a good opportunity for me to represent some of my classmates. I know a lot of people within my major and other engineering fields, so I feel like this would be a good chance for me to express some of the issues that they're facing, as well as give me an opportunity to meet more engineers. That's really it.
Okay, thank you. So proxying for Mr. Hawes tonight is Sharif Almaki, so
This statement was written and prepared by Jason J. Hawes. He prepared the rest of it in first person. First, I'd like to sincerely apologize that I can't be there tonight. I'm currently presenting the final project of a course at Science of TAP. As a bit of background, I am a junior in environmental and ecological engineering. I'm originally from Galveston, Texas, but my family moved to small town Indiana in middle school. I moved around a lot as a kid, bouncing around the Houston area for much of my childhood, and finally staying put in Logansport, Indiana. This gave me a unique perspective on many of the critical issues facing this campaign. As a child in a progressive family in the Deep South, I witnessed firsthand the stress that racial tension puts on communities. When I moved north, it was strange. People thought they were free of racism and prejudice, yet the same telltale signs of strife existed. I think it's clear that this campaign in PSG should be about how to best promote the further education and advancement.
Caleb?
So my name is Caleb Torgerson. I'm in first year engineering, originally from Portland, Oregon. From my last year of experience as a director on PSG, I've learned a lot about how things work, and I enjoy it a lot. I think it's a great environment filled with people that work hard to make the campus better, and I'd love to be involved with that. And I'd love to also just bring my ideas that I have with me to Senate. That's it.
Marcus?
Hello everyone, my name is Marcus Lloyd. I'm a junior in aerospace engineering. My first interactions with PSG happened about a year ago when I stumbled across some problems that I saw could be answered with PSG. From then I immediately contacted my Senator Hannah over there, and we started talking about everything that PSG could do to help the students, no matter what college they're in, whatever they look like. And I thought this was a great tool that everybody needs to know about. I started with trying to promote what PSG could do for my own organization I'm a part of, NSB. And then after that, I decided to put it upon me to go and run for a Senate spot so I can help be the change I want to see on campus.
Great, thank you. Let's go to Ollie.
Hi, my name is Ali. I'm a freshman going into aerospace engineering, and my motto in life is go big or go home. I don't like to just see problems, I like to work on a solution, because there's no point in complaining if you're not going to do anything about it. And I find that the biggest issue on campus is a lack of diversity, culturally, racially, and between different majors. And I wanted to join PSG so I can work on solutions to solve these problems. Additionally, I find that the best way to learn is through hands-on, and I wanted to create more research opportunities, especially for freshmen and sophomore who usually do not have the experience, they don't know how to talk to professors to get these research opportunities. So that's why I am running for PSG.
Colfax.
Hello everyone, I'm Colfax Putt, and I am currently a freshman, so I'm in first year engineering. I'm going to go into aerospace, and I am currently on the board of directors. I'm a director of communications, and I've actually been to almost every Senate meeting, and I was honestly pretty interested in what they were doing and wanted to be a part of it next year. And some of the major issues I want to focus on are on affordability and overall student experience and communication.
Thank you. Will.
Hi, I'm Will Stanczykiewicz. I'm a sophomore in aerospace engineering, and the reason why I'm running is largely because not very many people are here right now. Not very many people showed up to the presidential debate last night, and on Monday, almost no one was at the vice presidential debate. I think PSG can change a lot of things about its structure to do a better job of reaching out to the student body. And there are some specific things I do want to see done on campus, but we can't even begin to get into those until we are more effectively reaching out to the students, and that's when we'll be able to most accurately and appropriately represent them, and that's why I'm running.
Thanks. Adam.
Hi everybody, my name is Adam Williams, Adam H. Williams, not to be confused with Adam J. Williams, another student in the College of Engineering. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, major in chemical engineering with a minor in French, and I joined PSG, or I'm campaigning for PSG because I want to improve cross-cultural competency among everybody on campus, as well as expand the dining courts. And finally, I want to improve the line of communication between PSG and their constituents. There came a point last semester, actually last fall, where there was an important piece of legislation that affected several students of color, myself included. I felt like, sort of left out of the conversation. So I feel like that I plan to definitely improve that communication between PSG and the rest of everybody on campus. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So now we're going to move into some of the questions that Hannah and I prepared. So like I said, if you want to answer, raise your name placard. I'm not going to go and call on everybody to answer every single one of them, but if everybody wants to, you're more than welcome to. And then we'll take any other questions that anybody has. So first off, and a few of you touched on this, but one of the most difficult challenges that I have faced this year is effectively communicating or figuring out how to effectively communicate with the roughly 8,000 undergraduates in the College of Engineering. So how do you plan to effectively communicate with your constituents if you are elected? Colfax?
Well, one thing I plan to do is stay very closely connected to the multiple clubs on campus or for engineers. That way you can stay connected with at least the engineers who are really involved, and those tend to be the ones who really want things to happen. And I'll also have a Facebook page and other social media and be open to people contacting me and telling me what they think.
Adam?
I'm a very grassroots kind of person. I believe in a strong foundation. Therefore, I plan to talk to a lot of first-year engineering students. I believe that if I can start a trend or a movement such that senators talk to their youngest constituents, that you will gradually build a more conscious campus as far as what legislation is currently being discussed.
Marcus?
I'm running my campaign around engineering representation. Last year I did see a problem between communication between PSG and a lot of the constituents. So with that, I'll have personal relationships with a lot of the engineering groups, but not just the mainstream ones people hear about, more like NSB, MIS, and SWE. A lot of people who get overlooked. I know a part of NSB, PSG only came to one of my events, and that was for somebody who was running my freshman year. And ever since then, I never got contacted personally from PSG. So all I had to do was reach out initiative instead of expecting people to come to me.
Sharif?
To paraphrase Jay Collins, The best solution to any communication barrier is the integration of multiple platforms. Jake Hall intends to stay as available as possible to students by the utilization of several social media platforms and a blog. He also plans to develop a team of leading engineers who can provide insight to the issues impacting engineers every day. This will hopefully include the Diversity Engineering Group, SWE Engineering Ambassadors, PSPE, and discipline level representatives, several of whom he has already reached out to and spoken with. Finally, and maybe most importantly, Jake loves to cook. Any constituents are welcome to reach out to him and join us for dinner sometime next year to discuss issues impacting them. On a personal note, I would recommend that. I can speak from experience.
Ali?
So to answer that question, I think that sometimes you have so many resources available that you don't know where to start, and a lot of students here don't even know what PSG does, and I think the first solution to get them to come is to inform them how we can help their problems. And as Adam said, mainly the first year students are the ones who have the most problems integrating into the engineering and getting accustomed to campus. So I'd like to go to the engineering 131 and 132 classes. Additionally, a lot of them get involved in clubs, and I'd like to go to clubs that are in robotics or clubs that deal with a lot of engineering stuff. That way, also fraternities. That way, when we start a chain of reaction, when we reach out to so many groups, it will lead to peer-to-peer informing each other.
Well, not to sound too much like a broken record, my plan is kind of a combination of everyone else who's spoken. I currently help lead a couple pretty large organizations within the College of Engineering. And like Colfax, I would continue to utilize those relationships as I have pretty good relationships with a lot of the engineers who help lead smaller groups on campus. And I also plan on forming, if elected, a committee of people to talk to on a regular basis. And lastly, the last leg of that plan would be social media has to be greatly improved, used not only by senators but by PSG as a whole. And I can talk more about that maybe a little bit later. The senators from the College of Engineering this year have actually done a really good job compared to the senators from other colleges in terms of reaching out on social media. And I think that's something that we need to maintain and build upon in the future.
So I'm introduce Asim Shah. So if you'd like, you can have 45 seconds to do sort of an opening statement about who you are, why you're running.
All right, yeah, sorry for the inconvenience. So I'm Asim Jha. I'm currently a sophomore studying electrical engineering. I'm involved heavily with the city government, so I've been able to see how governance works at the local level. And so I just wanted to make more of a difference at the student level here in the student government. So I guess that's my incentive for running, is that I want to bring the sort of same vision that I brought to the city to work for the needs of the students within Purdue student government as well. So that's the sort of general gist.
And so it seems so that I'm going to ask some questions, and then if you want to answer, you can raise your name placard and I'll call on you. Otherwise, you don't have to answer all of them. All right, so moving on to the next question. Define the role of PSG senator as you see it from your standpoint.
Jake Hawes believes that the most important role of the PSG senator, obviously, is representing your constituents. And that can mean a lot of things, but the most important facet of that is especially advocacy. When you're representing your constituents, you're not just saying like, oh, well, they feel this. You're saying, this is what they need, this is the problems, these are the problems they're facing, and this is how we attack them. Especially for those who might be of lesser privilege than others. Or he believes that as an elected official, it is your job and your responsibility to be that voice speaking out for the weak and trying to do your best to help them.
Marcus?
I believe one important role is to listen. I know that a lot of people have trouble communicating with PSG. There seems to be a broken trust. So if you can prove that you can listen to what your constituents want, what they are concerned with, so you can try to figure out where they're coming from, try to understand what situation they're going through, then that will make your job of representing them that much more efficient.
I think that a big part of being a senator is to want to improve the cause that you're in. Not just, meet the needs of people, but also want to go beyond that to make sure that the College of Engineering at Purdue becomes the best that it could possibly be. And a way I think you can do that is to create opportunities. So through more partnerships with companies to offer internships for students, or to create more research opportunities, or to work on integration problems between people in different majors, and also, as Marcus said, to listen. And so, go beyond expectations.
I believe in this position, it's important to realize that you're representing a large body of students. So it's good to have these ideas and be forthcoming with them to improve campus. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that you're representing so many individuals that you need to be available and reach out to them and be there for them to hear what they need and then go about it as to meet their needs to do those things.
And I guess building off that point, there's a sort of a balancing act that you have to do as well. Balancing, I guess, the needs of the administration, the needs of the school, and I guess the various constraints that exist with what the students want and what the students are interested in. Because that's why we have a representative democracy, because I guess you need to have a smaller number of people to sort of decide what things are the critical path and what things aren't. So in that respect, balancing what can be done and listening to what needs to be done and I guess making that decision is a crucial part about that role.
So next question is kind of related to some of what you're saying. In your opinion, what is the most pressing issue facing the College of Engineering currently, and how do you plan to fix it? Most pressing issue, how do you plan to fix it? Adam?
And I spoke about this earlier when I introduced myself about my campaign, but I think one of the top issues, at least in my eyes, is the issue of cross-cultural competency. Purdue is supposed to be this global institution, and for a large part it is. There are, a number of international students from several different countries, from almost every continent. However, I feel like there's a certain level of, for lack of a better word, ignorance that's evident in not all, but some of the student body, and that ignorance sometimes manifests itself as unintentional hate speech, and sometimes even racial bias or homophobia. And so I think in order to improve this, I would advocate for more programming that brings together not just diverse students, or diverse students, people from every background. I've seen so many times there's a program that's just for students of color, or that's just for IFC or Pan-Atlantic Council. So I would advocate for more programming that brings together, different Greek councils as well as students from different organizations, Black, white, LGBTQ, etc. I think that's the best way to help facilitate learning about other cultures and ultimately ameliorate this issue.
Marcus?
I believe what Adam said is correct. There's been a lot of divisiveness on campus that we've seen over the last year, a lot of division. And as engineering students, we are focusing on classes. We're trying to graduate. A lot of students don't want to have these problems. Nobody wants to be upset with anybody. Everybody wants to get along. And I think with all of these diverse problems, you need a very diverse solution. I think me, Adam, we're great to handle these situations because we come from not your typical background. We have a lot of different experiences, so we can help bridge the gap between a lot of different groups, so we can come together, unify, and come up with a solution that works for everyone.
Ali?
Actually, engineers meeting, and I come from Egypt, and I lived in a city where I experienced so many different cultures, and this made me appreciate how different cultures, people from different countries have so many different ideas. And to answer your question, the biggest problem is that you see that different cultural groups hang out with each other and there's no integration. And kind of go off what Adam said as well, we need more programs to kind of bring these people together. Not just a race issue, but also a bigger understanding of what culture really means. We all took Engineering 131 and heard about how diversity is important, but we really never touched what does it mean that a different culture has different ideas, and we need more discussion about that. And I think PSG should have a bigger role in that. That culture is not just about race, it's about religion, it's about where you were raised, it's about how you think about stuff. And these discussions you have in smaller groups, but I think if it was to happen on larger scales and even involve faculty and involve classroom curriculum in it to kind of touch on it, it would really cause a big change to happen on campus, especially since we have such a large international population that PSG really needs to tackle this.
entry?
Several of the candidates have already touched on key components of what J College believes is the largest issue facing the College of Engineering. That is the integration of global 21st century skills into an already supercharged, super packed curriculum. J College believes that PSG and other student orgs can present an excellent solution to this, which would be co-curricular expansion. This means that skills like leadership, how to interact with other cultures and people of diverse backgrounds, and get experience in public speaking, event planning, and even grant writing can all be brought about through experiences through other student organizations. As an example, in EEE 495 with Dr. Lindsay Payne, students in groups of 4 to 5 developed an accelerated timeline for creating a rain garden with a community partner and educating the neighborhood about it. This is an excellent option for students to interact with people in the community, as well as have it very much based in their own curriculum and the things that they're learning for their further careers.
Well, something I'll add while I have the opportunity, we've had some people talk about the social issues the College of Engineering faces, and those are very valid, and I'm not at all saying what I'm about to say is more important than that. I just wanted to bring this up while I could. So I'm current Vice President of the Students for the Exploration and Development of Space, and we facilitate a bunch of technical projects around space exploration, so I help guide a lot of students trying to get money to do these cool technical projects. And what's a problem I ran into the last year I've been in this leadership position, and there's a lot of money available for student projects throughout the different colleges in the College of Engineering. But there's a big lack of transparency among the faculty on how that money is awarded, and there's very kind of a maze you have to walk through that's not very clear and told to anyone how you get this money. And hands-on projects are really important in any engineering education. It's what people want to hear about when in job interviews. Those are like the #1 thing you talk about. So I'd like to see the people elected to the Senate to represent the College of Engineering work with PSPE and the other larger umbrella engineering organizations to get something done with the faculty and these other groups that possess these large amounts of money that they do give to students, and create greater transparency on how that financial gifts are awarded.
I just want to say that one of the big issues I see is diversity. You can see it in the sense of just not even going out of your way because of you're not used to certain individuals' ethnicity, race, or religion. And the biggest issue I see with that is A, that students are feeling excluded and unwelcomed, and B, that I feel like you're kind of missing out of like the whole college experience, those not going out of their way. I mean, you come here to learn, you could take classes, go to class, and like learn things as far as material-wise, but getting to learn another culture, like through meeting people, is really like a different kind of experience. And so one thing I thought of that would be a potential solution to this is certain labs or classes, almost when you're paired up in groups or partners, just kind of don't say anything about it, have teachers or TAs say anything, just kind of pair people like before coming in, where you have a list of everyone's ethnicity and race and religion, and kind of pair people up differently so they can have that opportunity where they're in a situation, in a group, or partners with someone where they have to talk to them about it and get to learn. I feel like that would kind of break the barrier between different races, religions, and ethnicities on campus.
So I do completely agree with these social issues that the other candidates are talking about, but I also wanted to bring up the use of seminars, which are available to a lot of freshmen that they can take. But I think they're underutilized in a lot of ways because I don't think that there's as much available space as there should be, because these courses could be a lot of help in aiding first-year students in picking what they want to go into so they can make a better informed decision. I know in my 104 class it helped a lot with forcing us to go to the career fairs and forcing us to work on our resumes and forcing us to talk to companies. So I'd like to see those being used more and expanded.
So I think this next question I'm going to ask everybody to answer, and I'll just go down the line. Being a PSG senator is a large time commitment, honestly larger than I realized when I was stepping into it. So what other campus involvements do you have, if any, and how will these help or hinder your role as a senator? So I think I'm going to go reverse alphabetical order now, so Adam?
Okay, so currently I'm the program chair for NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers. I'm also the treasurer for my fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, and I also tutor about 15 hours a week. I tutor Chem 115, Calc 1, Calc 1, Chem 115, and Chem 116. Although next semester, if elected, I will definitely reduce my commitment to NSBE My course load is a little easier. The second semester junior year is definitely the hardest semester in my major. But as far as dealing with stress and a large workload, I mean, I sort of go with the Nike campaign to just do it. You know, the work is, I'm serious, the work is going to be there. My fraternity has a motto, or not a motto, but something we say is excuse of tools the weak and incompetent. So I have no excuses. I'm just going to get it done like I always have been. So.
Thanks. Will?
I'm currently actually involved in way too many organizations to list, and I'll just for sake of time, I'll mention my 3 biggest time commitments for sake of answering the question. So the biggest is the one I mentioned earlier, where I'm currently Vice President of Student Exploration and Development of Space, where I help guide about 150 students with technical projects they're working on. The second largest is I'm the Logistics Manager and Policy Advisor for a club called Generation Justice, which is a faith-based group on campus that is dedicated to spreading awareness for human trafficking around the world. And the third is I currently vice chair the Honors Engineering Leadership Board. These all have given me a lot of ability to practice listening to people from different perspectives and still make a decision at the end of the day. I will definitely have to step down from different technical roles I have within Students for the Exploration and Development of Space to allow for this. And but overall, I think the connections I've formed in those 3 organizations will allow me to reach a large number of engineers throughout the college, the different sectors of the College of Engineering. So I think overall it'll be a big plus. And I love how you just said it, just doing it done, no matter what, just get the work done, no excuses.
Okay.
I'm actually only currently involved with PSG, so this will be my focus. This will be the only thing I'm really working on next year. I will probably join at least one other club, but this will definitely come first over anything else I do extracurricular-wise.
So a passion of mine is to make sure that the next generation is interested in science and engineering, which is why I am a member of National Society of Black Engineers, why I work through a minority engineering program, why I'm an AIAA. It is also why I do research in engineering education, and I also do research in data mining. These will not set me back. I have the same time that Einstein did, and really, go big or go home. And so being involved in these organizations will allow me to connect with more students and not hinder me. Also, being involved in not just one research, but 2 research opportunities will allow me to meet my goal of creating more research opportunities for freshmen and sophomores through establishing connections with faculty and professors.
Marcus?
Yes, I am currently regional parliamentarian in National Society of Black Engineers for our region, basically Midwest region, Region 4. Currently, that's my only extracurricular. I also play intramural football, but usually that's for a few weeks at most. I'll have a lot of time to dedicate for PSG if I am.
See?
So I'm involved in Greek life as well, as a few other candidates mentioned. And I think that gives me an interesting opportunity because that's sort of another social sphere, because they're the students who live on campus and they're the students who live off campus in various Greek houses or co-ops and so on. I'm also involved with the local government with respect to policy that we do at the local level. And besides that, I'm also a TA for Engineering 141, 142. So that's a great opportunity for me to connect with freshmen, see what's on their mind, because it's very interesting to get their perspectives because they're just coming in for the first time, so they're seeing everything with a fresh perspective. So getting that viewpoint is very important to me because that's where you can see what's the biggest room for improvement within engineering. But I'd say with all those responsibilities, I still have sufficient time to devote to being a senator.
So I'm currently involved in Greek life as well, and I see that as a great opportunity to get the word out further about events that PSG is holding. I'm a member of AIAA, which is the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. I'm a member of the Purdue Swim Club, which kind of keeps me sane, and I'm also involved with PSG currently. But I see being more involved and having less free time as a challenge that I like, and the less free time I have, the more productive I tend to be. So.
Jake Hawes is, if you were here, because we discussed this thoroughly, would be very gratified to hear that a lot of the students here, especially the underclassmen, are so excited about being a part of PSG. However, having been involved very heavily over the past 3 years, he realizes that you can't do everything, and even if you can't do everything well. As opposed to being a mile-wide, inch-deep participant, Jake Hawes has been very heavily involved in Purdue Student Sustainability Council, and he's been a vice president in the past year and intends to be vice president again for the coming year. He was given the opportunity to run for presidency of that and was previously the president of the First Year Engineering Student Advisory Council, and made the conscious decision not to go after those roles again, to focus on PSG and his ability to represent students of the College of Engineering. He is additionally a paint crew member. He's an advisory board member, which allows him to help coordinate 2,800 members and a small contingent of the representatives in that organization. He also does research and volunteer service. However, his research over the past few years, especially during the summers, has allowed him to take courses, allowing for a very light course load over his senior year.
Okay, I am, like others have said, I'm an undergraduate lab assistant for the course Electronic Techniques and Measurements, and that was a really good experience for me to be able to kind of connect with students, and so I helped them through their labs and I grade papers, and it kind of gave me an experience I've never really had before in terms of that. I do plan on continuing that next fall and spring as well, and I'm also the Director of International Relations for an organization called Nourish, and what that is, I have to do is I reach out to nonprofit organizations to pair with them in order to solve global issues. I research these global issues to find practical solutions, and then I handpick interns through the application and interview process to send them abroad in the summers. So even though I do have some involvement on campus, I was getting ahead of my course load early on. I was originally on a master's plan that I recently dropped to focus on things like this. So my course load next year would be more light than most, so allow me to have the time to do what I need to do for PSG Senator.
Thank you. So we're going to go back to raising your hand if you want to answer some of these questions. So one of the most important skill sets to have as a senator is the ability to persuade people, both fellow senators as well as administrators. So what is your approach to persuading people? Ali?
So I volunteer at a science museum for 1,500 hours, and what I have to teach kids from ages 5 to adults about static electricity. And if I can teach a 5-year-old about static electricity, you can, you learn how to communicate. And I think I don't, to kind of change your question a little bit, I don't want to persuade people. I want to inform people and have them make their own decisions. For example, if I am, trying to pass a bill, I don't want to persuade people. I want to inform them and get their support. Because if I'm going around and, trying to get people just to follow me and not giving them all the facts, then I'm not fully completing my task of making sure that this bill is fully complete. And so I like to make things simple. As Einstein said, make it simple but not any simpler. And if you can't make it simple, you don't know it well enough. So that's kind of how I go about that.
Colfax?
My approach to persuading people would be to listen first. I would really want to understand why they oppose whatever I'm saying, if they do, and maybe not even the same day, but like go home and figure out like ways you can adjust a bill to make it fit their point of view, or to come back and explain it better and explain why they should actually believe the way I should on a certain bill. And so pretty much just listen first.
Sure.
Jake Hawes is an environmental and ecological engineer. This is one of the smallest engineering disciplines, and as such, he is very devoted to the idea of sustainability. He's also very cognizant of the idea that most people don't care very much about sustainability. As such, he has very much learned through the course of these 3 years about how to approach people about subjects that how is this going to affect you in the long term? How is this going to directly impact your life? What are the ramifications of not going with this decision? Additionally, he understands very much that every decision is very three-dimensional. There are very, very infrequently situations which are very black and white, and he would strive to understand every aspect of a decision before making it. Now, as a leader, you don't always have that option, but he would strive to make the most informed decision possible and ensure that all the facts are laid bare for everyone involved in making that decision.
Marcus and Senator first.
Persuade people, I think the first step is to understand the person you're talking to. This is where diversity comes from. We understand everybody is an individual, and some people are more effective when you're using ethos, some people are more effective using pathos and logos. With that being said, you need a collaboration of people for your idea. Sometimes you need a lot of people to tell their personal stories to make people understand how real a situation is. Sometimes you need a lot of numbers, facts, and statistics to get a lot of engineers to agree with you. Whichever way you use it, you just need a collaboration of all of those aspects to make sure other people understand what you're trying to convey and why you're trying to convey it and why they should believe in what you believe in.
Adam?
So for me, my method of persuasion is through passion. I don't do anything, especially something this gravity, with a haphazard mindset. You know, like if I'm going to stick my foot in the door, I'm going to go all the way through the door. So if anybody here remembers last semester when I spoke at a few of the Senate meetings, like I was really passionate about those, and I really get into it because it means a lot to me. And I think, at least for me and for our cause with Spark, it was fairly effective. You know, we got a lot of legislation passed within PSG. So I think if you speak from the heart, you speak with passion about a topic that you really deeply care about, you know, it'll be evident in the results.
I think the best way to persuade folks is to convince them that whatever bill or legislation that you have is in their best interest, or is not in their best interest if you disagree with it. And so I guess it all comes down to people follow what their rational self-interest is. And if you can convince people that, you know, advocating this bill will help you directly in the long term, or will create a better environment for you in the long term, and will maintain the values and principles that we have, then I think that's the best way to go about it. Because there's really no deviating from that point. Because once the person themselves is convinced of the fact that, yes, this is the best, this is in my best interest, that's the best way to get them on board, and on board permanently.
Method I use to persuade people is just honesty. If you can just show someone that you're an honest person and gain their trust, you won't need many other resources if you want them to take your side on something, because they'll just know you have their best interest at mind. So that's kind of what I plan on doing, just kind of showing the students that I'm someone they can go to and I can be honest with them. So when bills come around and they are in these best interests for the students, I can tell them that and explain why, and they'll be able to trust me and know that they're making the right decision.
So next question. One thing that you'll probably learn pretty quickly is that you typically can't please everyone with the decisions that you make. So what is your approach to decision making? Caleb?
I think something that's important to remember as senators is that you're representing your constituents, and even if you personally disagree with something, I think it's important to keep in mind that if the majority of the people who voted for you and have voted you into the office and that you're representing, I think it's important to keep them in mind when making the decisions and go with what's best for them.
As far as decision making, I think it's best to try to please as many people as possible in terms of you'll have two options, one will please more than the other. But at the same time, you need to keep in mind some ethics and morals. You can't be making decisions just because it pleases a bunch of other people if it doesn't have positive morals to it. So I think it's to an extent that you're trying to accompany the most people, but at the same time following like a guideline of morals, and that's how I make my decisions.
Marcus?
I think within PSG, no answer is just a yes or no, and you'll never hear from it again. With that, to make decisions, it's about listening again, having that diverse group of people. And if somebody wants something that you understand that it is impossible, you need to be able to convey and communicate with that person and work with your constituents to see what is the best solution that you can arrive at if you can't get the one that they originally wanted. However, if it is just something that you really can't do for that person and you can't change or shift around and compromise with the person, then you have to understand that when you take that oath, what you do, you represent all of the constituents and you need to do what's best for everybody.
Steve?
Building out that point, there are very few situations in life where it's binary, outside of engineering. So in a great majority of situations, you can arrive at some sort of compromise. There aren't always just two strict options. I mean, you can work your way towards some middle ground which is acceptable to both parties, or they say the best compromises make both parties equally unhappy, right? So I guess working towards that middle ground is how I try to approach decision making, and also relying on my conscience. Because something that at least my father told me is that like if you always just rely on your conscience, then so many options become closed to you, and that makes decision making much easier. You don't think, oh, do I take bribes? Oh, do I like give people handouts? Do I, bribe my own people, right? All these sort of corrupt things, they don't even become options. You just stick to your principles, you become devoted to them, and then you make your decisions on the basis of what you know to be your moral compass and your conscience.
So next question, I guess this is going to be two parts, so I'll do them separately. But so for those of you that are at least a little bit familiar with Senate this year, something that you liked from this year's Senate, if you've seen something that you want to continue, and then something that you'd like to change that you didn't like. So I know some of you may not have been around a whole lot, and that's fine, but for those of you that have, I guess we'll start off with something that you like that you want to continue. Marcus?
Personally, it was more towards the end of the last semester. PSG was taking strides to listen more to their constituents, to work with everybody who had problems to resolve those issues. Originally, what I did not like was the lack of transparency, a little tardiness when it came to giving out information to a lot of students. So at some meetings, you had an influx of students because it was the first time they ever heard about an issue. So they needed to make sure they take immediate action to make sure something that wasn't in their best interest didn't happen. And at that point, a lot of PSG members were caught off guard because of the influx of people. But I like how PSG currently is working with students, getting information out faster and coming up with solutions so that we wouldn't have those shocking moments anymore.
Sweet.
So just real quick, it was something you like, something you didn't like, and something you would continue to strive for?
Just for right now, something that you like and or that you would continue to do, so
okay.
positives.
Something that Jay Cause very much liked this year that the Senate did was the increase of accessibility, specifically with the cultural center seats and the strides to things like movements to try and make legislation easy to submit online for any student and not just senators. Things like the open forum that came before one of the Senate meetings that was tried out as an experiment. Jay Cause is all about that and would love to see more student accessibility so that Senate is not just something that only a closed off percentage of the student population is able to kind of understand and navigate, but that any student who has a problem can come to them and reliably have an easy way to get their point across.
Marcus? Or I'm sorry, Adam. Sorry.
So one thing I liked was the approachability. Like everybody was very easy to reach out to once you were at their presence. Also, towards the latter half of last semester, the visibility on campus. So I know after a lot of the protests and a lot of consecutive Senate meetings I had attended, I started to see more and more PSG members or senators out at various events. I mean, not just typical Senate meetings, but also events with the BCC and the National Panhellenic Council and various multicultural events on campus. So that really means a lot to I know me as a person of color, seeing PSG come out and support it.
Well,
No, he said something similar to what I was going to say, so
okay.
good, thanks.
Okay.
Personally, something I really liked was just how much the senators seemed to care. They weren't there because it was another thing on their resume. They all spoke during the Senate meetings, and sometimes they argued for hours and hours about things that I didn't even really know what it was about. But I really enjoy how much passion these senators had.
So now things that you like to fix in
Okay. I'll be blunt. So one thing that I wanted to fix or improve was the diversity on the board. I'll be honest, I talked about passion previously. It really deeply angered me when I went to that PSG meeting, and I think you guys were voting on a piece of legislation that was going to affect the financial opportunities for all the people of color, or several people of color on campus. I mean, there were 20-some white faces and hardly any people of color who were deciding the financial fate of hundreds and close to 1,000 people of color. That really hurt. I did not like that at all. And in fact, that was the impetus for me being here today. So that was definitely my main motivation for campaigning with Marcus here, and definitely getting more involved last semester and this semester. I mean, that is, if I had to pinpoint a specific activity or event, that is why I'm here today. So that's definitely one thing I want to change.
Speaking on that event, more specifically for me, it was the lack of reaching out. In the end of the day, you guys did get elected. You guys will have to make the decisions for people. But seeing that you guys weren't being directly affected, it would have meant more to me if a lot of people who were affected by that legislation were reached out to and had asked for their advice, what they felt how you guys should have went with that decision. So I think that reaching out and connecting to people who are everybody who is relevant to every piece of legislation, and basically since intersectionality, everybody is relevant for every decision that is made. So reaching out to every group to get a consistency of what your constituents actually want.
Kind of on a similar note, JCAUSE would like to foster a culture of outreach and availability to within Senate and to the student body. A lot of the times when you bring up student government, people don't really know what it is or what they do. This is something JCAUSE had the same experience until he asked me about it because he knew I was involved in it. He was like, I've seen your logo everywhere, but I have no idea what it is you actually do. So JCAUSE believes the best way to combat this is by going out to the student body and talking to your courses and talking to your classmates and your friends and the people in the organizations you're involved with about what it is that Purdue student government does and seeing what it is that they want Purdue student government to do. Because at the end of the day, that's how servant leadership works. You exist, you're elected to serve the people who elected you. And if they want something out of you that you're not displaying, then maybe it's time to change. And maybe it's time for the organization to change.
Well,
Yeah. There are several things I want to change about PSG, but like I said in my opening statement, the biggest reason why I'm running is just the huge amount of student apathy related to student government here. And it shouldn't take student protests on campus like we saw at the end of last semester to have PSG be involved at the scale that it was. Like, it was after something like that that we saw the Senate in the exponent on an almost daily basis in quotes from different senators. And we saw different senators, we saw President Young, and we saw different people from the board of directors at events at different clubs, and that only happened at the scale that it was visible to a large percentage of the student body after something like those protests. And that's something that I think is frankly unacceptable from people who were elected to represent the student body. It's something the first thing I would look to improve on and change if I were elected.
So, to keep it real, a lot of us, all of us, myself included, promised to do a lot of things. And I'm sure when you campaigned, you also promised to do a lot of things. And something I would want to change is that I want to keep track, or like if I ran in PSG, make sure that everybody's accountable for the words that they say. We say that PSG passed these laws or did this stuff, but who inside did that? And PSG has a lot of members and it does a lot of things, but each of these projects come down to a smaller team who worked hard on it, and all these issues come to people who lacked the efficiency and the capability to fix them. And so I would really like to implement some sort of accountability for what you say and for what you do, and have people responsible and more face-to-face with all the stuff that they pass. So the students, when they have a problem, they know, okay, so these people are those who directly deal with it, and this is who we directly go to. And this will allow us to do many things, including having more connection with the student body, because now they will understand who is truly behind it. It's not just 50 members that they don't know who to go to. They know these people deal with that.
I recognize I already spoke, but I just wanted to state for the record that having worked very closely with all three of them, Daniel, Hannah, and Giovanni have been amongst the most transparent and hardworking senators I have seen in my tenure in Purdue student government. They're consistent, they are very honest, they are very clear about what they believe in and what they want to strive to work for. And I cannot imagine a better engineering representation. So I just wanted to put that out there.
do we have Twitter questions? Alrighty. So, choose 2 other engineering candidates on the stage or in the chairs that you feel best represent the College of Engineering that you would want elected with you. Marcus.
This honestly has been the easiest question all night. I would choose Adam Williams and Prince Ali. I know those 2 students personally. I actually am the same year as Adam. We came to Purdue together. We both grew, learned a lot about the world, learned a lot about Purdue engineering and the Senate together. We communicate a lot about what we see that we want to change at Purdue on PSG, how we can implement change, and I think Adam and Prince Ali will be the best senators probably on the board that I have, that we will have.
So I would like to say that Adam and Marcus are also 2 of the people. Not because Marcus, call me. It's because really all of us are members of the National Society of Black Engineers, and I think the biggest reason that we're all here today is because we have so much passion for increasing diversity, and because all of us are minorities. I'm from Egypt and they are African Americans, that we really experience these problems at such close level, and we all really feel for what it's like to be a minority. And I'm an immigrant from Egypt, and there's a huge international population here, and so having all of us having this kind of experience and being from the issue itself and having one-to-one contact with it, so choose them because I can mostly relate, and my platform connects with theirs.
All right, next question. This is a topic-specific issue. So, what are your sustainability goals for Purdue? Marcus.
This is a great question. I do know a few EEE majors, and they invited me to learn more about the Purdue Student Sustainability group. And they had a manifesto. I read that manifesto, and I've had a platform to revolve around sustainability a lot with changing how the students as a whole think about sustainability within the classroom. I think that's where we would start first. Teaching students about the immediate and present situation and gravity of everything that's going on. So we would need to make sure that students are aware at a beginning level that we need to be more conscious of the waste that we produce, about how we decide to clean up the environment, how we decide to use paper and all of that. One of the bills that PSG passed was about going electronic with their papers. And I know that PSG goes through a lot of papers. We had a lot of papers whenever I was personally at meetings. And I think that was a good step for PSG to lead from in front to show that we can make real conscious steps to improve sustainability on this campus.
So of all the notes that I got from Jake Hawes, he gave me about 1.5 pages talking just about sustainability. It's a passion very near and dear to his heart, as anyone who has met him could tell you. His experience is he was vice president of one-time events for PSSC up through this spring. Next year he will be the internal affairs chair for PSSC, that's Purdue Student Sustainability Council. He is the Student Sustainability Summit assistant coordinator, and he's been working very hard for the summit for both this fall for Purdue, or for this spring for Purdue students coming up on Saturday actually, and the one in the fall for students from universities around the U.S. He has 3 major initiatives that he'd like to propose. One is living laboratories. So this is something that's already been tried out here at Purdue, and is essentially something that that you take a sustainability idea or initiative and you implement it on campus, or some, like for instance at the Purdue Student Farms, and then you allow professors to study it and write papers about it. This has already had a massive return on investment for the stuff that we've done with the civil green roof. He'd like to propose more stuff like that. Another project that discussed by the PSG Sustainability Committee, which he's also a part of, and that's currently on the Dendra Getty presidential platform, is the stickered reusable cup program, which is basically instead of the cups that they hand out every year to all the residents of the residence halls, giving them a sticker just saying like, you can put this on a reasonable cup and just take it into like Tarkmark or On the Go or 3rd Street Sweets shop, something like that, and say like this is reasonable, so I get like some kind of discount instead of having to use their disposable cups, which are not recyclable. And lastly, would be a proposition to have kind of a responsible citizen general education requirement, which would include a course related to like environmental science, conservation, political participation, or sustainability. This is something that he would like to flesh out further if elected, but is something he feels is very important that we currently lack at Purdue.
See?
I actually think it would be a very interesting idea if we implemented some sort of compost program, because there's a lot of waste that happens, food waste, otherwise. Most of the food waste is actually used for biofuels production, so that's good, at least. But I guess trying to minimize food waste, keeping a running tally of how much food at the dining courts is being wasted would be one aspect of that. Also various other garbage, instead of sending it to the landfill, again, if we could develop some sort of a compost program, we could turn that into fuel, possibly sell it, provide more revenue for the university. I feel like that would be a great opportunity. The only thing is I would hesitate about adding more required courseworks with various subjects, because I think as it is, a lot of students, engineers in particular, are very overburdened with their course requirements. So any more requirements, I would say electives are fine, but I personally would oppose adding any more like course requirements to the curriculum.
Chris?
To be honest, I mean, we have some of the best minds in the nation at this school. I think the best approach to it would be just informing them in education. I really had no interest in sustainability or knew much about it until I took a class on it, and now I start my EEE minor in the fall. And it's a really interesting field, and I feel like a lot of people would be interested in but just don't know about it or care because they don't have the knowledge, background knowledge behind it. And so, like, I mean, like, there's some cool things in there as far as like renewable energy that I feel like tons of people would get in on. So I think just educate them and then let the students feel where they want to go with it. Let them come up with solutions, and then as a senator bring that forward and represent the students as a whole.
Yep.
I'm from Portland, Oregon, and if you're familiar with the Pacific Northwest, we really love our trees. A big thing that I've noticed is that there's kind of a big culture difference between the Northwest and here in terms of people caring about recycling or knowing where their stuff is going and being more conscious of what they're using. And something that PSG worked on a lot this year, I know, was limiting or lowering the amount of plastic bags that are being used on campus, and I'd like to see that being like continued. But also, it's just in terms of changing that culture, you have to educate them, and I'd like to get more involved with the Student Sustainability Council to learn about what they're doing and how we can change the culture here.
Good answers. So next Twitter question. So a lot of you talked about wanting to make PSG more accessible and make the students more aware of what we do. So how specifically would you raise the profile of PSG and make it more accessible? So specific plans to do that. Marcus?
I think me and Adam already came up with a pretty solid plan. It would be a lot of groundwork. It would be a lot of work on ourselves, a lot of blue collar work. We have to go meeting to meeting from different group to different group and reach out to them, go figure out when their meetings are, asking me speak to everybody during one of their general sessions, talk about what we're doing, what we're trying to do, and ask to see if we can have a representative from their group represent them as a group so they can personally contact us. We'll keep in close contact with them. And whenever there is any issues or bills or anything pertaining to that group, we will reach out to them immediately. This would include SWE, NSBE, MIAS, all the engineering fraternities, all the engineering honors colleges. So it's a very wide goal, and we think we both can achieve it.
Adam?
Just to build off what Marcus said, so everything he said, as well as speaking to those engineering 131 and 132 classes. I know when I was a freshman, one of the reasons I chose to go into chemical engineering is because of the chemistry representative who came to talk to my engineering 132 class. Furthermore, I believe this coming term we're going to have these ad hoc seats. That's correct, and those ad hoc seats are going to be the liaison between PSG and a lot of the cultural centers and other otherwise underrepresented groups on campus. So I think we should definitely utilize those ad hoc seats as a liaison or an avenue to help get information from PSG to the rest of campus who wants to be in the dark. So Marcus and I, if you already have a well-established plan on how we're going to accomplish that.
Well, yeah, my plan on Facebook is pretty detailed, and it pretty much agree. It's pretty much everything Marcus said, with the addition of having I know all of us aren't here during BGR, but it'd be good if PSG could somehow have a presence there to hit those freshmen right at the beginning, because if you could do that, you had something that could be ingrained upon in their Purdue experience from the beginning, and it's more likely they'll be carried through. That is something that was not effectively done as effectively as it could have been when I was a freshman, and I think that's something we could improve upon. Additionally, I would like to see the ability for senators to carry out their office hours in a way of having tables, like having a table on campus so people could volunteer, and you could reach out to people in between classes that way and be like, hey, I know we'd have to think of a financially responsible way to do this, but if you get like silly free things you can hand out and then just engage in conversation with students, I think that'd be a really effective way of talking straight with your constituents about different legislation that the Senate is facing.
I did just want to clarify, just so no one walks away with the wrong impression. So as it's currently written, the ad hoc seats expire at the end of the term. At that point, Senate will have the option to renew them, I believe. Daniel, could you correct me on that?
So, I mean, it's not really renewed per se, but they expire May 1st, and then if the Senate decides that they want to create ad hoc seats for anybody, regardless of whether they've been created before or not, you have to pass a bill, 2/3 majority, I believe. Is it 2/3? Yeah, right? Or is it? I'll have to look for
I think it is 2/3.
So I'm pretty sure it's 2/3 to implement these seats, but that they expire May 1st, so you would have to do it like in the fall. You can't do it this year. And that's just to, I think, Adi, for those of you who know her, wrote it that way. She wrote it that way just so that the point is to evaluate who is currently on the Senate and then who is underrepresented based off of that. So we are getting ready to wrap things up here. Before we go into closing statements, I'm going to have that you want Hannah or I to answer about PSG, about things that we face in our terms, anything you want to know about PSG that will help make you a better senator. Not that's fine. But yeah.
What's the toughest decision you had to make on a resolution?
I definitely would say either the Mizzou letter or the ad hoc seats, just because there was so much feedback that we got from our constituents, and really taking time to have the conversations and talk to people and hearing both sides of it, making an educated judgment based off of that. Because despite how you feel and anything, you do have to listen to what your constituents feel and how, in the end, you will vote based on that.
Yeah, those were certainly some pretty tough decisions. Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, I voted in the minority on that one, and you know, it's tough too when everyone's going the other way to stand your ground. And I mean, I was listening, but ultimately I did what I felt was best. Probably would be unhappy for it, but those are tough calls. I also think it's tough when we hear things. You know, some things we hear ahead of time, and we know how we're going to vote going in. But I think it gets really tough when you get in there at these meetings and someone brings up a new point that you haven't heard before. And you have to make a decision on the fly, and you're going back and forth, and time's running out, and you got to make a decision. And I try not to abstain just because I feel like I'm throwing my vote away. But it's tough sometimes to figure out on the fly how do my constituents feel what the best option is. Any questions?
So, I know we spoke a lot about things we want to fix, and that doesn't mean you guys did bad, but you guys did great. But how do you balance? You have social issues, you have academic issues, you have, different kinds of issues. How do you communicate with the rest of PSG and to kind of focus on all these problems at the same time?
Right. So, short answer, I would say our committees. So we have 4 standing committees: Student and Academic Affairs, Governmental Relations, Internal Affairs, and Financial Affairs. And then we've also this year added some ad hoc committees devoted to specific issues: mental health, sustainability, outreach and representation, and student legal services. So by having the committees, particularly the standing committees, you can kind of divide up the work on these issues to see so that things are getting equal attention. So dividing that, and I would just say working together, because that was the reason that we formed the mental health committee, was that there were 5 senators all working on mental health. They all 5 of us had meetings with the director of CAPS within a month or 2 of each other and asked the same questions. So it was like, why are we working separately when we can just come together and get more accomplished? So I would say working together is important, seeing who's doing what.
Yeah, I would definitely say the relationships. If you do join PSG, it is an incredibly passionate group of people. It is both intimidating and inspiring. But really I found that the relationships I formed by having conversations with people, it really helps you get either your issues that you want to work on, have a teammate or someone to bounce ideas off of and share it with other colleges. That's a really strong tool to use within PSG. I would also say committees really help you hone in if you have a specific idea or topic that you want to work on within Purdue. That is a great opportunity to make progress in that. I mean, beyond that, PSG is just a tool for you to use if you have a great passion or idea you want to make happen. PSG can be a microphone if you want to connect with certain faculty or staff on campus, really help them elevate you to get what you want done.
The other thing I would add real quick is something that I think Senate typically, it's very easy to do a poor job with this, and we kind of did this year too, in that sticking Senate over here and the Board of Directors over here and never having any interaction. So Board of Directors has more people on it than Senate does. It's separated into 6 completely different committees.
We can answer questions too if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just saying, I think if you are elected, I think it's a huge asset to work with the Board of Directors because they've got a bunch of manpower as well, and they can devote more time to that.
Do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, I'm Skylar Platt. I'm Colfax's older brother. I cannot claim to not have any bias there. I'm the Executive Director of Communications and Social Media and Graphic Design and that sort of thing.
And I'm Brian Ryder, and I'm the Executive Director of Engagement. Caleb is on my committee this year. And,
2 of my votes are up for grabs.
So this is a question you asked for this crowd, but to ask you, what do you 2 think is the biggest issue facing College of Engineering? Yeah, put on the spot. How do you like it?
Deserve it, I guess. I mean, I've been lobbying for mental health quite a bit because I think it's a campus-wide issue, so I don't know if that necessarily addresses college. I mean, it's important to college of engineering, it's important everywhere. Specific to the college, I don't know. I think if we could somehow improve first-year engineering a bit to make it more valuable for everybody, I think that would definitely be a big thing. I've tried on that a little bit, but there's other roadblocks there.
Specifically looking at the College of Engineering, I feel like we get very kind of siloed off, for lack of a better description, but we have people that are in our degrees, people we take classes with, and I really wish there was an opportunity or a way beyond first year engineering, once you get out of that, to really work with people in other degrees and really foster a sense of community within the College of Engineering as a whole, because we are a huge college, and really finding a way to bring us all together and at least have some sort of unifying factor between all of us, something I would love to see you guys accomplish next year.
All right, so I think we'll wrap things up. I'm going to give you guys 45 seconds each to do a closing statement. Before that happens, I guess I'd just like to say I think you guys are all outstanding, passionate candidates. Whoever wins, I have no doubt that you guys will do a good job. Whoever doesn't win, I encourage you to join board of directors if you still want to be involved. I think there's a lot of opportunities there. We could definitely use you there.
Experience to not only address the issues that hearing from my connections to the College of Engineering, but to reach out, make more connections, and learn from new issues. So I feel like this would be a really good experience for me. Thank you.
Marcus?
You can look at my platform on my Facebook page, Lloyd and Williams for Engineering Senate. It covers engineering representation, improving campus safety, improving sustainability on campus, as well as expanding the on-campus Wi-Fi. With all of these issues, I'm very passionate about them all, but I'm aware I'm not a master of all of these subjects. And being a minority on campus, I have firsthand experience of feeling like my voice isn't being heard, feeling like I'm not being represented accurately. So if I was on the Senate, I wouldn't repeat what I felt. I will make sure that everybody's included in the conversation, make sure people who have.
Ali?
So, as I said, my motto is go big or go home. I really want to make a difference. I don't want to just have this so it can be, pretty on my resume. I want to come in, I want to solve cultural issues that we have on campus that we can continue to do even after I leave and after I graduate. And I also really, really want to create research opportunities. Research has been one of the most educational and valuable things that I have done in Purdue, and I really want other freshmen and sophomores and juniors and seniors to kind of experience the same thing. A lot of professors are willing to do it, a lot of students want to do it, and I want to be able to create a connection between them. So to summarize, I want to solve cultural issues, I want to solve educational issues because Purdue has a special place in my heart, and I want to make it as good as it can be. I want to make it number one.
Sharif/Jake?
So Jake's platform is all about promoting cross-disciplinary learning opportunities for students, advocating for environmental, economic, and social sustainability across campus, and making PSG accessible to all students, and expand and emphasize diversity and inclusion on campus. He believes that Purdue can really lead the way in the world and in the U.S., and that we're all leaders here. Kind of as an aside, I hope I didn't misrepresent Jake in any way during my time here. I'm sure you all know it's really difficult to pretend to be someone else. I'd also like to take a second to thank our two moderators and your fabulous engineering centers for doing all this work. They've been awesome to work with. No one else would have would have put forward the time or effort to do something like this opportunity. So a round of applause, I think.
Adam?
So I don't have a lot to say, so I'm going to go ahead and finish what Marcus was going to say before I get cut off. Like Marcus, there have been times on this campus where I have felt like a little bit marginalized and my voice didn't matter, specifically the times last semester. So if elected to the position, I plan to represent everybody, specifically that 8% of unrepresented minorities who are oftentimes, in my opinion, many others are often unheard or not represented. So that's about it for me. Thank you everybody for your time.
And Colfax?
Once again, I wasn't able to say everything I wanted to here. You can check out my Facebook page, just type in Colfax Pod. I'm sure it'd be one of the first ones. And as a senator, I would just want to be the voice of the students. I want to represent the students accurately, and that is really the biggest thing I want to do.
Thanks to our audience for coming, and thank you for all of you guys for participating. We will try to get this up online sometime soon. Yes, Skylar?
Yes.
So, but thank you, Skylar.
Sure thing.
Thanks for handling for help.